scene 10, go!
Hi, my name is Kerry Caldwell and this is ZIA Cooking. I am so excited and glad you could join me today. I've always wanted to share my delicious recipes with all my friends and family, and now I can, because ZIA Cooking is the place where we're going to come together, we're going to learn more about cooking, and I am going to share with you all the amazing stories that I've learned from my family, from my ancestors, from our heritage. We'll be talking about recipes from northern New Mexico all the way to southern New Mexico. ZIA Cooking is where it's at. We're gonna get together, we're gonna share recipes, we're gonna have fun, and we are gonna bring dinner to the table. Let's get this started today. We're gonna go ahead and add our ground beef to our hot skillet, and I went ahead and I mixed in our chopped onions. As this gets started in our skillet, I wanna tell you a little bit about picadillo. Picadillo is very simple ingredients. It's ground beef and potato, like I mentioned before. And we're going to incorporate a lot of flavor and spices by using some fresh Roma tomatoes, lots of garlic, and the star of the show today, since we're making it Southwest style, is going to be our chopped hatch chili. This has already been peeled, and I took the time to add in a little bit of chopped onion and some garlic. What makes picadillo so wonderful? I think the ease of making it, I think the simple ingredients that you're able to incorporate, and this is a wonderful dish you can serve many different ways. I love to have it right out of the pan over some white rice. It's delicious and it's hot, but it's also a great filler, and we're gonna make burritos today, and I'm gonna share with you how easy it is to incorporate it and also make it for tacos. So this is a meal that you can use for breakfast, you can use for lunch, or most of the time we make it for dinner. Now, I'm also at this point, as our meat is browning, going to go ahead and add in our chopped potatoes. I went ahead and I diced these pretty small. The smaller your potatoes are, you'll find the faster that they cook. And the other thing is that we want these to be bite-sized pieces. Now, traditionally, my grandmother used to add in a little bit larger potatoes, and she would cook it a little longer throughout the day, and they would dissolve and come into make a creamy base. So you can also prepare this as a stew as well. At this point, since we've got it going and it looks like it's coming together, I can start the smell, we're gonna go ahead and add in our garlic. Now these items will be listed in the description below, so if you forget how to do it, you'll find that I've made this recipe at least over 300 times, and every time I make it, I add a little bit of maybe an extra spice. Some of the spices I like to incorporate are cumino. Cumin is a smoky spice that we find. It creates a lot of debates. Some people say they can't stand it, just like cilantro. So remember, when you're cooking in your kitchen, you want to cook for your taste and you want to cook for what your family enjoys. Now, putting this together, you'll see as it starts to brown, I'm going to go ahead and take some time to chop up our tomatoes. We can use diced tomatoes from a can, and sometimes I do that if I'm running short on time. But I like to use fresh vegetables, especially if they're growing right now. The garlic that I added, I want to mention, it was grown in my aunt and uncle's garden. My Uncle Pete can grow some really good garlic and some great jalapenos. So it's nice that I got to incorporate those in. And if you've got a chance to see this New Mexico recipes, and thank you, and sorry my brain's a little bit scattered this morning, but this is one of my most popular recipes. New Mexico Recipes is one of the most fabulous, fun, get-together group you can join on Facebook. And if you're not a member of it, I really encourage you to look for New Mexico Recipes, answer the 4 simple questions, and sign up today. It is the only group you will find me posting recipes, and I post 3 to 5 recipes a week on that group. I've been invited by hundreds of other groups and cooking shows, but I have my heart set on New Mexico Recipes, and that's where you're going to find a lot more details of recipes that I've had in the past. Now, right now, I chose this because it is a true fan favorite. I have had hundreds of people literally ask me for this recipe, and so I'm glad that I'm able to do a quick demo in my kitchen. You know me, I love to talk and I love to cook, so it's a great time for us to come together, and you can actually see how easy it is and how fast we can make it in our kitchen. Again, simple, working together. Picadillo has a lot of traditional types of recipes. In South America, we find it with raisins, green olives, Those seem a little bit different from my taste style, but in New Mexico, I see some people like to add in corn, carrots, peas, squash, or zucchini. And if you're not a meat eater and you want to go ahead and try to make this picadillo, I recommend that you go ahead and use additional vegetables, but the same spices and the same techniques, and you can incorporate it. It comes together very nice. Now, if you're using diced tomatoes at this point, you would go ahead and, canned diced tomatoes. You could add them in directly from the can, but I choose to use the fresh tomatoes. There's a lot of natural juices that come out of the tomatoes that's going to create a really luxurious, tasty, silky sauce that I just think binds it all together very, very well. Simple cooking. Sometimes I find that less is best. When it comes to the kitchen, you don't want to take too much time, especially after a long day or you've been busy. And you'll see that this meal can fill a lot of needs. And this is something that my family really enjoys eating. Now, as this comes together, I'm gonna go ahead and incorporate my spices. Now, we sometimes find people say, spice to taste. What the heck does that mean? What kind of taste? Is it your taste or my taste? In my kitchen, I cook to my taste. But I know in your kitchen, you might wanna add a variety of different spices. I like to incorporate Mexican oregano. What's the difference between Mexican oregano and regular oregano that you find? It has a deeper, more rich taste to it, and I find that I need less of it. I also find that the Mexican oregano doesn't have as many stems. The leaves seem to be a little bit broader, so we get more of a leaf product into it. And I always like to use fresh cracked pepper. I know that sometimes I'm in a hurry and I'll just get the salt and pepper shaker, but I find that sometimes just incorporating the different types of pepper that's fresh cracked, it gives that nice real smoky taste and hot little kick of flavor. And we're going to incorporate the garlic salt and also the onion salt at this time. Now, if I'm in a big hurry, which most of the time I am, and I'm always running behind and doing things 5 minutes longer than I need to, or in the kitchen, I will always put a cover on this. When you cook with a cover over your potatoes, they steam from the top and the bottom, so it can reduce the cooking time up to 10 minutes. But right now, I just wanted you guys to get a look and see what's going on here. And you can see that lots of the natural juices are coming in. I use the 85% ground beef. The reason I like to use that is I don't like a lot of oil. I don't like a lot of grease left behind. And by using this with the fresh vegetables, I seem to get a really perfect blend. Now, there are some recipes that people will add rather than using the tomatoes. We use the nor tomate. The reason that I've changed my recipe over the past few years is I find that those pre-made mixes, they have so much sodium. And when I really started looking at it, I realized that we don't need 1,500 grams of sodium. I'm not knocking anybody that chooses to use those in their mixes, but you can find a much more flavorful meal by using the fresh ingredients that we have here today. Now, picadillo means good food in my kitchen. And all those mamas out there who come home tired from work, your wallets are thin, and you sometimes wonder how you're gonna make it. And this is a meal that you can put together. I used 2 medium tomatoes, and I used about a 3/4 pound of ground beef. But if you find that you'd like to make it, to stretch your meal a little longer, you can use less beef and more fillers, you know, for the inside. And this is coming together just nice. So while we go ahead and let this finish, I'm going to put a cover on it, and I'm going to join you back in just a moment, and we're going to see how it comes together. I've had our picadillo cooking for about 5 to 7 minutes, and I went ahead and I covered it to cook it just a little bit faster. I had some really delicious fresh homemade tortillas, and I'm not going to be able to share that recipe with you today, but I will do it in the future. And if you haven't taken time to like this video or subscribe, I'd like you to take a minute and do that now. It's important that we get back together and learn some more cooking together. Now, today, as I've said, there's many ways that we can make picadillo. We can put it in a tortilla, we can roll it up and call it a burrito, we can put it in a corn tortilla and have it a crispy one and call it a taco. Picadillo tacos are delicious. The other thing I mentioned before is how I like to just eat it in a big bowl covered with cheese. You know me, I love that gooey cheese on everything. But today I went ahead and I decided I was gonna do a burrito. I have a funny story I want to share with you. And to be honest, I really can't 100% guarantee it's a true story, but it's a story that my grandfather, who I call Pop, would tell me quite often. And he said this is the day that he realized he was a true New Mexican. He transplanted himself and his young family from Ohio in the late 40s to Albuquerque. And while he was working, he brought his lunchbox to school, or I'm sorry, to the shop with his other coworkers, and he noticed everybody at the job site were taking out these long, round sandwiches. And he asked somebody, what is that? And they said, it's a burrito. And he said, well, what is that? And they said, what you do is you're gonna take a tortilla that you've made, and whatever your wife or your mom made for dinner last night, you're gonna wrap it up in there, and you're gonna put it in your lunchbox, and you're gonna bring it, and that's your burrito for lunch. And he asked the next day when he saw more burritos coming out, hey, what kind of burrito do you have? Some had bean and cheese, some had chicken and rice. So my grandfather got a little adventurous, and on Friday, guess what? He pulled up into the job site and he opened his lunchbox and he took the biggest burrito anybody had ever seen. And they said, Edwin, what kind of burrito did you bring? And he proudly said, spaghetti and meatballs. I'll tell you, everybody hugged him and pat him on the back, and he said, that was the day I knew I was a true New Mexican, because as long as you have a good homemade tortilla, you can put anything inside of it, roll it up, and you feel like you're at home. Let's go ahead and prepare our burrito today. Now, if you aren't able to make homemade tortillas, because I'm not always able, and I'll be honest with that, I'm blessed living in Las Cruces, so there are a lot of places to find fresh homemade tortillas. If you're not going to be using homemade prepared tortillas, you can go ahead and warm it up on the comal, but these are nice and warm and ready to go. So let's go ahead and load up that burrito now. Now you can see that it's all incorporated itself. The potatoes are nice and tender. We've got the tomato, the lovely garlic, and that green chili. Now, if you're not a fan of spicy food, you can always omit the chili or put it on the side, which is okay. And some people like to use a jalapeno in place. It really depends on what your heat factor is and what you're wanting to do. When I'm preparing this, when I have the grandbabes over, they're not big chili fans, so I'll go ahead and I'll keep the chili on the side and we can put it together there. So here we have this lovely plate ready to go. I'm excited to roll it up and take a big old bite of this lovely picadillo burrito. Thank you for joining me here today in my kitchen, and I look forward to talking to you and hearing more about what you think of this meal